Hello, beautiful. Welcome. If your emotions get in your way when you're trying to declutter, then this is the session for you. I'm Suzanna Kaye, professional organizer, and I am here to share with you some of the declutter questions that I use when trying to make some of those more emotional declutter decisions. Because there are so many things in our lives that are simply hard to let go of because of the emotions behind them, right? So that's what we are talking about today. Welcome, welcome. All right, real quick, in the comments, I just wanted to say hi to some people who are hopping on. Welcome, Patricia. She says it's her first time joining me live. Yay! And she says her emotions get her every time. You are not alone. I think that I put this one last because I know this is going to be our biggest, most popular one because I hear that so often. And I've worked with so many people in their homes who have that too. And hey, Peg is here, Kathy and Sue, and so many great people I see are popping up on the screen. Good morning, Jenny. Here we go. Cindy's here. I'm not going to say hi to everybody, but just know that I'm so happy to see you. Like Jamie's here. All right. Well, as you hop on, say hi over in the chat, even if I can't, mention you in particular. I still love to see who's here. So today, our focus, like I mentioned, is talking about the declutter questions to ask ourselves to get past some of these more emotional blocks that we have with our stuff. So if you've not already, let me share. In the description of this session, make sure to go to the download link, which will get you to those declutter question cards. They look like this. I call them cards. They're really like cutouts, the declutter question cutouts. So you'll get a downloadable printout, and it will have the various questions from the entire series, from this entire video series, because this is part 5, the last part of this series. But you can cut each of these out. So these are some of the things that we are talking about this week. And what I like to do is tape them in places that you see often. If it's a question that you want to kind of keep top of mind and remember to start asking yourself more often, or if you're organizing, pick whichever questions are your triggers, the ones that you're still working on, and tape those on the wall or something near where you're working. So you can see that question and help remind yourself to ask that question over and over. Because the more often you ask yourself these questions when you're decluttering or just throughout your day, the easier it will get. After a while, you'll find that if you're asking yourself these questions consistently, then it no longer really feels like a struggle. You start to automatically ask yourself these questions, which that's what we want to get to. We want it to become kind of a brainless. Now, if you are a member, one of my members, and you're a Pathfinder member, then you don't have to worry about that download link expiring. You will get an email with that download. So don't worry about trying to make sure to download it in time. But if you're not a member, then make sure to download those declutter question card, the free download. Make sure to download those before next week, because once they go away, they go away. So they're only available for 1 week. All right, let's see. Oh, so many wonderful people have hopped on. It's so great to see each and every one of you. And Susan says, this has been a wonderful, helpful series. Thank you. You're so welcome. Suzanne says that she really needs this topic. Peg asks, are these different cards from last week? These are not. For this series, I put all of the cards this time in one PDF. If I repeat the series, then I'll probably break them out into their own separate ones. But I wanted to keep it simple for you since I did not have them from week 1. So all of the series, the questions are all on that one download. All right, let's get started on some of these questions. Now, when we are organizing, it helps to ask yourself questions as you work, because that's what's going to help you make those decisions. So instead of feeling like you just should automatically know the decision, that's not how the world works. It's not how our brains work. So having questions to ask yourself as you declutter will help guide you to make the right decision. And the right decision is different from for each person. So what's right for you might be not right for somebody else, and vice versa. You do what's right for you, but use these questions to guide you to what is your right choice. Okay, so the first question you've probably heard a cajillion times, but let's talk about this one. It's, does it bring me joy? Now, this is, like I mentioned, it's been a catchphrase in organizing for several years now. We've heard it over and over, but what does it really mean? Because does it bring me joy? The fire extinguisher does not bring you joy, but yes, you should keep it. And while you might have, maybe you've got a little decoration, does it bring you joy, or is it cute and you like it? Now, there's a very distinct difference between bringing you joy and just liking it. Like this one brings me joy because this is from my friend Rochelle from one of her travels. Every once in a while, she picks me up a little gnome because she knows me and my addiction to gnomes. I love gnomes. So this one truly brings me joy because when I look at it, this makes me remember Rochelle. It is something that I really enjoy seeing on the side little fireplace heater that I have in my office. And it just reminds me of all the times that we've spent together. So this one actually brings me joy. But we do often have things around us that we like, but they don't necessarily bring us joy. So joy is a deeper emotion than it just being pretty or you just like it. And it's something that's indescribable, but it touches you in a deeper place. So if it was gone, you would miss it and you'd still remember it. And you would feel like you wish that you had it back versus a lot of things that are just pretty. Like I talked about the quote card last week that I'll keep for a little while, but after a while, I only like it. I'll probably take a picture of it and let it go because once it's gone, I probably would not even remember it. So I would be okay without it. That's something that does not bring me joy. It's just something that I like and it makes me happy. Now, just because it does not bring you joy does not mean you have to get rid of it, such as that fire extinguisher. There are some things that are simply utilitarian. And bringing you joy does not always mean that it's something that you want to show off to the world. It just brings you joy. So that really comfortable pair of pajamas that are worn out and have holes, but you love them, those can bring you joy. And it's okay if it brings you joy, even though nobody else in the world might value it. But does it bring me joy is a good question. And that one leads into our next question that I'll tell you in just a moment. Let's see who is here in the chat really quickly. I wanted to answer any questions. Laura says, oh golly, forgot to order my cards. So glad you reminded us today. You're so welcome. Today's the last day. As a reminder, today's the last day. If you've not ordered your small step cards, make sure check the link in the description, but make sure to grab these today. If you wanted to pre-order them, they'll be shipping in the beginning of March. Hopefully that is still the projection. And these are your small step a day to declutter. I finally have our final proof. There's 100 cards in there. And today's the last day when you pre-order to get the home maintenance list pack. So I'm so glad that you grabbed yours, Lori, or that you're going to grab yours today, because the list pack is this. It's a download that you'll get immediately, but these are two-sided when I printed them, but these are all sorts of lists for deep cleaning and home maintenance and vehicle service logs and service provider, keeping track of service providers and all that good stuff. So super helpful list pack. And right now, this is the only place you can get it. So grab those today. Thank you for the reminder, Lori. Awesome. I'm glad that you're grabbing them. I see that we have so many other people hopping on. So glad to have you. Yay, lady made it finally after a couple weeks, she said. Yes. Somebody says, your series reminds me to get rid of stuff like my old pay stubs. It's one of those things you just kind of forget. And that's another reason why I like the small step cards. We just kind of forget about these different areas in our homes, and things go and they aren't bothering us because we don't notice them. So they just kind of build up. So I'm so glad that the series is helping you. Welcome, Eloise. Lori says, it's a gnome. Of course it's a keep. Yes, you know me and my gnomes. Love my gnomes. A lady ordered her small step cards already and has hers. Yay. Yay. And Linda's finally in her new home. Wonderful. Welcome to your new home. All right, so let's go to the next question. We just mentioned, does it bring me joy? And this one goes along with it. What feelings does this bring up? And like I mentioned, today we're talking so much about the feelings. So when you pick up the item, such as my gnome, when you pick up the item, what feelings does that bring up? So I told you with my gnome, the feelings that this brings up the memory of my friend Rochelle. And when I think of her, I think of the cruise that we went on. We went on a couple of cruises together and had a great time. And it makes me think of her travels. So the feelings that this brings up is that connection to my friend and just the adventure of travel and exploration. So that's why this brings me joy and why I love it so much, because not only is it a gnome, which is awesome on its own, but it's so much more. It brings up a lot of these feelings. But the other example, something like my quote card, what feelings does this bring up? Well, I'm quickly inspired. Whatever I do today is enough, it says. It reminds me, I remember the event. It was fun. Does not bring up a whole lot of extra deep feelings though, right? So this one brings up some nice feelings, but kind of general nice feelings, not something that is like really inspiring and overwhelming, just nice. So this will stick around until I need that space for something else or I get tired of it. And then sometimes we will have items that bring up conflicting or negative feelings. So the conflicting or negative feelings could include, maybe there's some guilt attached to whatever memories are coming up from that item. Or maybe there's regret, or maybe there are some negative feelings because you feel a sense of burden or it was attached to a negative event. So really think, if it's bringing up any feelings that are negative, then that might be a clue that it should go. Sometimes it even brings up negative feelings just out of like obligation. So some of those books that we've kept for years because we're going to read them, but we've not read them yet, those can sometimes have a kind of subconscious negative feeling. You might not even realize it, but it's a weight. Seeing that is a weight because you've not made it through that book yet. You feel like you should read the book, but you don't have time or the energy or the desire to right now. Those types of things, if it's not super exciting to you to read it, then that's a sign. Maybe you should let it go, donate it to the library, and you can always check it out again whenever you want to read it, or give it to a friend who really would read it, that type of thing. So what feelings does this bring up? And really be honest about the feelings. Just because negative feelings do come up does not mean that you have to let it go. None of these questions mean that you have to make the decision to let the item go, but they are going to help give you the information you need in order to make the best decision. And sometimes we simply have to come to terms with it over time and acknowledging if negative feelings come up. Even if you keep the item right now, acknowledging it will at least help you maybe in the long term to let the item go when you're ready. Because the more we try to ignore the fact that those negative feelings come up, especially when we feel like we shouldn't have negative feelings around it and we feel bad about feeling bad about it, then sometimes it's really hard to let it go and we might need some processing time before that can leave our house. So first off, does it bring me joy, that deep joy, more than just it's pretty and I like it? And then what feelings does this bring up? And if there are any negative feelings, guilt, responsibility, anything that has the word should in it or negative feelings, then it's probably a sign that it's time to let it go. All right. So, hey, Virginia is first time here. So Socorito, I'm not going to talk about how long to keep paid bills during this session because papers is kind of a whole separate subject than what we're talking about today. But if you're a Pathfinder member, then at noon in our Facebook Campfire group, then I can answer that there during our live session there. Absolutely. And it's also in the Paper Path course. I tell you how to keep your paid bills, how long to keep them, what systems. There's a self-purging file system you can set up and all that good stuff. Everybody's saying welcome to Virginia. That's awesome. All right, so Peg says, what feelings does the wedding invitation in a frame bring up? I need to throw it away. I've been divorced since 1998. And then she wrote, you got this. Yes, those are hard ones though. But if it's not bringing you joy, then it might be time to pass it on to somebody who does not have those feelings attached to it. Or if it's a release, an emotional release, throwing it away sometimes is great. Sometimes we just need that mentally. Throw it away and move, like let yourself emotionally move on. Yeah, I'm good. I'm glad that you are in the space where you're ready to do that, because that does take time to get there. There's a lot of grief. Oh, yay, Janice is finally able to comment. She got the comments working out. Yep, Lori says to Peg, burn the invitation in your outside fire pit when chilly, starlit night, and donate the frame to Goodwill for someone else to put something happy in it. Yes, it is nice to do some kind of a freeing release sometimes, whether it's burning in a peaceful fire pit night or whatever. I love that. Okay, Marty, so she was asking about the cards. She says the cards are not free, but you can only order them today. She's asking. So right now, I know I confused everybody by naming them the same things. Right now, the items that are a product to pay for, the small step cards, which is a box that would be mailed to you of physical cards like these, and they each have a small like declutter task for the day. I don't know if you can see it. There's 100 of them. Today's the last day to pre-order them and still get the bonus checklist pack. So you will be able to order the cards after today, but you will not get the bonus. So today's the last day to order these to be mailed to you. Now, the free download, there is a free download right now. That is, I put them over here. This just goes along with the session that we're talking about. So your declutter questions. So this is a download you can find in the description. And when you download it, you will just see that you can print it out yourself, cut these out, and then you'll have just these little pieces of paper with the questions on them from this week. So they're not the tasks like the small step cards. They're just the questions that we've already talked about in the videos. So sorry to make it so confusing. I think next time I'll have to rename the questions, download, or not have a promotion for the cards going on at the same time. I know I made that confusing for you. Good question, though. All right, so far we have, does it bring me joy? And what feelings does this bring up? Now, if you're watching on Facebook, then give me a heart. Click the little heart or the like button and tell me if you're enjoying this. If you're on YouTube, click the like button so I can see that you are enjoying this series. It always helps me. I look back at what I've talked about in the past to see what gets the most likes, and that helps me decide what types of topics to talk about in the future. So, and also share it with a friend, because the more it gets shared, the more I know that people liked it too. All right. Number 3, am I ready to let go and move forward or grow? This goes along really well with that framed wedding invitation, right? Am I ready to let go and move forward or grow? And the answer does not have to be yes. Sometimes the answer is no. You know, if you were recently divorced and that wedding invitation is still framed, maybe you're not ready to let go of it yet, and that's okay. Later, though, you might ask yourself the question again, am I ready to let go and move forward and grow? And later, it might be the time. And by letting go of some of these things that have an emotional tie that's not a healthy emotional tie, or that's not bringing positive feelings into our day, by letting go of those, that then gives you the space to find something else to fill it. So having the space of not seeing that item, the mental space as well as the physical space, means that now you have that space. Physically, you have the space to put something there that brings you joy, maybe pictures of the grandkids. And mentally, you have that space because now you're not being reminded, even subconsciously, as you walk through your home, of an event that was sadder, or feelings of guilt or anything like that. So you have that mental space that now you can fill with maybe something exciting for the future. Maybe you can post a travel brochure of where you want to go, or something that's coming up or that you look forward to. So am I ready to let go and move forward or grow? And even positive memories. If it has positive memories, sometimes it's okay to let go of the item so that you have space in your life for more positive memories to come in. Just because it's a positive memory does not mean you need to keep it. You could take a picture and let the item go, because some things are just meant for a season in your life. They're not meant to be forever. All right. Oh, Sue says the information is life-changing. Thanks. You're so welcome. You're absolutely welcome. And so good to see you guys, Linda and Marty. Awesome. Okay, ready. Question number 4. So we talked about, does it bring me joy? What feelings does this bring up? Am I ready to let go and move forward or grow? And then 4, am I keeping this out of guilt or negative feelings? So on one side, the item itself might bring up feelings of guilt or negative feelings. But on the other side, sometimes we're keeping things out of this feeling of obligation or duty, or because we've not forgiven ourselves for something, or another person for something. So it's a lack of forgiveness is keeping us from letting go of the item. So why are you keeping the item? Especially if it's an item that has some negative thoughts and feelings attached to it. Why are you keeping the item? And really go deep with this one. And sometimes when you ask yourself this question, you might not know the answer at the time. So you might need to, walk away later in the day as you're doing the dishes or something. You might have that aha moment. But for example, I worked with a wonderful woman named Mary way back in the day when I worked one-on-one with people in their homes. And she had all of these books, these journals, these books of journals from her mom, all of her mom's diaries. And they weren't bringing her joy. It's not something that she was opening up and looking at. It's not something that she really wanted to read through. She was keeping them more out of obligation. She felt like somebody had to keep them, and to let them go, she just felt a large weight of obligation, even though there was a lot of weight to these. And I'm not talking physical weight, I'm talking emotional weight. Keeping these was emotionally heavy. But these negative feelings of the guilt and the obligation had her holding on to these, even though they were bringing her no joy. So being able to let them go, however you let them go, sometimes it's, for something like that, giving it to a historical society, giving it to another family member. You can choose to dispose of them. It's completely up to you how you let things go. We're not talking about that one today. But being able to let them go helped to let go of some of those feelings that were attached to them. And it frees you. So are you keeping it out of guilt or negative feelings? Are you keeping it because you've not forgiven yourself? And it's sort of a way to remind yourself so you never forget and you can keep punishing yourself? Or is it a way to remind yourself of what somebody else did and, did wrong to you that you've not forgiven and you don't want to forget? So you're holding on to that so you never forget. Trust me, if it's truly something wrong, either that you did or somebody else did, the item's not there to remind you. You will remind yourself. We are our own worst enemies at remembering guilt or holding a grudge sometimes. You don't need an item to remind you. And once you let go of the item, then you can probably work on getting to that next step of forgiveness of yourself or the other person if you want to. So, am I keeping it out of guilt or negative feelings? Okay, Cindy says, that's a really good way of thinking. Does it bring me joy? I should think about that with my papers and magazines. Yes, there are so many times where we keep papers, articles that we pull out and resources. They don't truly bring us joy. A lot of times we keep them out of fear of not being able to find information later. But it's not a joyful feeling. Yeah. Sue says, perhaps it has been aversion therapy. I won't make that same mistake again. Absolutely, right? Debbie, you really hit so many emotional feelings that can come up, even things I didn't know I had. You're wonderful. Oh, thank you, Debbie. That's so sweet. I love it. I'm so glad that this helps. And Jane says, I found during the years of losing my husband and mother each year, I am able to look at an item and either give it away or donate or sell it. It reminds me of peeling an onion back with all the layers. And it is, especially when there's grief, either of a loved one you lost or of an event, something like a divorce or a job loss, or there are so many things that still we have grief about, and it's okay to grieve. And the items associated with things, as you're ready to move on to that next level of healing, you're ready to move on to that next level level of letting go of items. And it's nice because you can finally get down to the level of items that are truly important, but that takes time. Like you said, like the onion, one layer at a time. And you'll know when you get to the things that are truly special because you're asking the questions and they bring you joy and you're not keeping them out of negative feelings. And all of the questions are going to tell you that you've made the right choice. But yeah, it does take time and your answers to these questions will change over time. So 1 year from now, look through things, ask the questions again. All right. So next, number 5, sometimes we don't have the words or the rational thought for it. So number 5 is, what does my gut say? Sometimes it's simply a feeling. You don't know why, but you know that the item just isn't right to keep. Maybe you don't necessarily feel like you have negative feelings about it, but something in your gut, something just that you know without having words or knowing why, tells you that that's an item that should probably go. Listen to your gut, especially if you're one of those more emotional and like empathetic type of people who really feel the energies of things and really go with your instincts more. Especially you, sometimes just sitting still and feeling what your gut is telling you is going to help you out. So I know for me, if I were to just sit and think on my gnome versus my quote card, just there's something, some knowing, some feeling inside of me when I sit with the gnome that says that, yes, this is special. And it's kind of like a glow, a warm glow in my gut with the gnome. And when I just sit with my gut, and even though I've got great memories with the card, it does not bring the glow. It does not tell me that it's a definite yes. So that's a sign that, you know what? When I'm ready, this is probably one that's okay. I can let it go. So you don't need the words for it. There's not always need to be logic. Sometimes it's simply your gut. All right. So before we go on to the last couple of questions, because it's sort of another section when it comes to family obligation and responsibility. Let's see what we have in the chat. Sagrito says, I have boxes of old cards, birthday, Christmas, anniversary, baby shower napkins, decorations, anniversary, congratulations cards. Oh, yes. Yes, those are tough, but those are great ones to take a picture of and let go of most of them. So unless it is something super, super important and a very special memory, then a lot of times just taking a picture of it is plenty and you're more likely to look at it scrolling through a photo album on your phone than you are to open up the box and actually look at all of the items. So we're actually much more likely to go down that memory lane through the photos than we are through the actual physical items these days. But if you are looking for a way to keep some of the greeting cards and how to make those differences, in the Paper Path course, in that special papers section, that's where I talk specifically about greeting cards and paper memorabilia. And I talk about a greeting card scrapbook that's easy to do and all that kind of stuff. So Jana says, yeah, the gut feeling of things really works for me sometimes. Yeah, sometimes we don't have the words. We've not processed the information enough to know the words and the logic behind things, but our gut knows before our brains ever do. Peg says, I kept the wedding invitation in a box, just found it when unpacking after a move. I kept it because it's pretty. Pretty is not a good enough reason to keep it. Yeah, and that's another thing, you could take a picture if you wanted to remember the pretty, and that's fine. And there are positive memories associated with things like that. But yes, when you are ready to move forward and let go of the other reminders that come up, sometimes letting go of pretty in order to grow that next step is so helpful. Thank you for sharing that. Jane says, I finally did the purging of all the cards I had kept. Yay! And so glad that you could join us, Cindy. Well, I'm glad that you were here. Sally says, we all need to remember, if it doesn't bring joy, why let it take up valuable real estate? I love your ideas for eliminating clutter by displaying items that bring you joy. Absolutely. Yes, if you don't want to see it, why keep it, right? That's what I say. It's not helping anybody in a box. It's just deteriorating. Patricia asked, can we go back to see parts 1 through 4? Absolutely. So on my YouTube channel, there's a playlist that has the Thursday talks, and parts 1 through 4 are in that playlist. So yes. A lady says, I feel guilty about getting rid of special cards from family. Well, then this next section of questions is for you. Ready? So far we've said, number 1, does it bring me joy? Number 2, what feelings does this bring up? Number 3, am I ready to let go and move forward or grow? Number 4, am I keeping this out of guilt or negative feelings? Number 5, what does my gut say? Now, the last 3 questions are all about family and those feelings of obligation and responsibility. So number 6, how does or will this affect my family? There are so many times when we keep things that we are keeping them not for ourselves. We are keeping them because we feel like our family might want them, or to preserve memories for the future, or basically for somebody else. So when we are keeping items for someone else, that can be a dangerous and slippery slope. And it can also be a huge weight on us. So when we are doing this, and we'll go through all the questions really quickly, and then I'll kind of circle back and go more in depth into them. But when we are doing this, we need to be very realistic about what benefit it's truly providing to the people that we are keeping them for, what they truly want, and how much we really want to take on. So how does or will this affect my family is one of them. And then number 7, how much does my family want to be involved or care about this? And then number 8, could this be someone else's responsibility? So these 3 questions all sort of work together, right? Could this be someone else's responsibility? How much does my family want to be involved or care about this? And how does or will this affect my family? So a perfect example of this would be all those memorabilia items that you're keeping for your kids, right? Because we keep things all the time from our kids' childhood, and there are some things that we keep for ourselves, which is wonderful, the things that we want to look back and remember. But a lot of the things that we keep for them. And there's a wonderful woman named Jodi, and she runs the Moms Who Dare group. I will be speaking at her event in April. But in the Moms Who Dare group, Jodi mentioned she'd heard this quote somewhere. I don't know where she heard it. I don't think she does either. I don't think she mentioned she did. But she says that these are your memories, not theirs. So when we're talking about some of these memories, especially for your kids, most of what you're keeping are your memories. You're not necessarily keeping their memories. The first report cards, you remember them coming home with those. They don't remember them, or they don't remember them in the same way. They don't have that special tie to these items. So as we're looking at these items that we're keeping, we want to think, are these their memories, or are these my memories that I'm trying to, share with them, to relive through them? And how does that affect them? If they did not have this item, how would they be affected? So, for example, if you have, I'll use the example of my grandmother made me when we were little. We could not get the Cabbage Patch Kids. They were expensive and they were all the rage. And my grandmother handmade me a Cabbage Patch Kid, right down to signing the little booty cheek. And it was this cute little Cabbage Patch Kid that she made me by hand. So I have that as one of my childhood memories. And then also as one of my childhood memories, I have the first report cards and progress reports from kindergarten. So when I'm looking at those 2 memories as me, as the person who my mom saved these for, the progress reports and the report cards, those are her memories. I don't remember coming home from school with these progress reports and report cards. I don't remember the teacher. I don't remember what was going on in my life and whether this was a good grade for me or if it was a bad grade. I don't remember. Those are not my memories. So I'm not as interested. I find it a passing interest, but a photo of them would be plenty. But my memory is that Cabbage Patch Kid because I spent so many hours playing with that Cabbage Patch Kid with my best friend. And I remember my grandmother had made it for me, and it was special because of that. So that's my memory. So if that had been let go of, then that would affect me more. It would not devastate me, but that would be something that I would actually have missed and thought, oh, that would be nice to have. So when we are thinking about how does or will this affect my family, we can think of, would they even notice if it was gone? Would they be even impacted if it was not here? How would it affect them? A lot of times we keep things because we want to make sure that they're taken care of. So we keep, a record of every bill that's been paid over the year, just in case something happened to us so they can see, the whole history of the bills. Most likely they're not going to care. They're going to want to know, okay, what bills are normally need to be paid? How do they get paid? How much do they normally cost? They don't necessarily want to look back at all the bills just in case you aren't around. So that's another one where it probably does not affect them for you to keep it. In fact, it probably affects them negatively because now they have all of that extra paperwork to go through to find what's truly important, right? So how does or will this affect my family as far as whether you keep it or let it go? Is a really good question to start asking yourself. And it's a tough one. Along with that is, how much does my family want to be involved or care about this? There are so many times where we keep things expecting our family to then keep it when we're gone, or that we can pass it on to them, and they might not want it. So we'll talk about that more in just a minute. I want to get to a bunch of these different questions that came in. So Jamie says, I've learned to get rid of the birthday and Christmas cards that don't have anything personal written in it. If it's just signed love and the person, that's really good. Yes, because those aren't bringing up really special memories. You got the love in the moment, you appreciated the card, and then it can go. And that's what most cards are for. Just feel the love in the moment and then let it go, right? Eloise says, now that's hard for me to get rid of. Wedding and graduation invitations. Now they put pictures on them. Yes, and that's why taking a picture of them is really helpful too, because then you can let go of it because it's not the item itself, right? It's seeing the picture and remembering the event. Yeah, Glow says, I'm super guilty of this. Yeah, so many of us are, right? Jamie says, I've lost count of the gifts that my mom has sent me that I really don't want, need, or like, but I keep them because they're from her, though I'm getting better at letting go. That's really good. Yeah, a lot of times we keep it because we don't want to hurt somebody else's feelings, right? So that obligation, but that's not what they intended. When people give you a gift, they want you to have nothing but positive feelings from that gift, right? So if you keep it and have this burden, whatever type of burden it is, mental burden, physical burden of the space, if it's burdening you in some way, that's not what they intended. So I'm sure most people would absolutely prefer if you let it go. So that way you receive the love of the gift in the moment and appreciate that they thought of you, but then you can let it go so you do not feel burdened by the gift and somebody else who could use it more can use it, right? So the gift is going on to have a beautiful life with somebody else. You've gotten the love from it, and there are no negative feelings attached. Now, there are some people out there who might not be in the right mental space and won't necessarily understand, but that can be their responsibility. As long as you lovingly, you don't have to tell them, but if it comes up, as long as you lovingly respond that you appreciated the gift and you got the love that they gave, and it's all about the intention and that somebody else is loving it now, that's all that you can do. The rest is on them to handle that. So yeah, the feelings of obligation for keeping things can be really hard sometimes, but letting go is the most freeing thing you can do and the most loving thing that you can do, so you can truly embrace the love that was meant. So a great thing to bring up. Jamie, thank you for bringing that up. Oh yes, like all of your son's baby teeth. Yeah, that's a good example. Are they going to want it? I know for me, my mom tried to give me my baby teeth. I said, no, ew, I don't want them. But she loves them. Those are her memories, though. They're not mine. And it's fine for her to keep her memories. If that's something that you love and that you want to keep for yourself, that's fantastic. But we just need to be honest and say, I'm not keeping this for them. I'm keeping this for me. Peg says, I gave each of my children a Christmas ornament each year. They're adults now. 2 out of 3 wanted their ornaments. Yes, and that's perfect. And when you find that they're adults and you offer, then that third child who did not want their ornaments, then it's okay to let those go because they had the offer. And if they don't want it, then there's no need for you to hold that burden for them. Lady says, thank you. Why would I give Andy and Raggedy Ann to someone else's child and not get rid of cards? That's so funny. It's funny how our minds work. Jane says, great way to look at the items I save for my children. A new item to go through again. Yeah, and that's another one. It's an onion. The first time you go through it, you'll let go of some stuff. The second time, you'll let go of some more. Sakurito says, I take pictures of the fantasy jewelry that I don't use anymore and send to my nieces and daughters to choose what they want and come get it. That's a great way to do it. And then if they don't want it enough to come get it, then they don't want it enough and it's good to donate. Janice says, oh man, no, please don't keep every paid bill. Keep a rolling year if you need to, but not all of them. Yeah, she's currently going through a lot of bills that were left and all the papers. This is my moose pie. My husband, he says, that's how I hope you accept all of my gifts. Yes, if it's something that I don't want to keep, then he knows that I will let it go to somebody who's going to appreciate it, but I receive all of the love and I keep the love because that's what the intention was. So he says, you don't know my mother, right? Yeah, and Jamie says, my son wants nothing to do with those teeth, right? Oh, yes, that's fantastic. And I'm just reading through some of these. Priscilla, I saved my traditional Swedish folk dress and St. Lucia crown in hopes of passing them on to a granddaughter someday. We'll see. Absolutely. And if it's an important memory to you, it is okay to save it. Just remember, if they don't want it, then don't be upset because that is your memory, not theirs, right? So if they don't want it, that is fine. Make sure to preserve them so they're in good shape when it's time to pass them on. But if they do want it, then great. Just make sure to curate a selection of what you are saving for them. Because if you save everything, they won't know what's important. But something like your Swedish folk dress and St. Lucia crown, those are important parts of your history and your childhood. So those are something that's a really good part of a curated collection. There's a meaning behind them versus keeping everything. There's a meaning behind them. So a small collection of items is much more likely to be well received and wanted than too many things, because then it's overwhelming and it just looks like way too much to filter through, and they might not keep anything if it's too large of a collection. So good one. Janice says, I saved so many things for my kids. I had them go through them and they wanted very little. Again, it was my memory. Yeah, it's hard to accept. It's really hard, but it's so true. It's so true. Sheila says hi to Jeff. She says she's watching in Lennoxville. Our Canadians are here. Love it. Okay, so we mentioned how does or will this affect my family? And then number 7 was how much does my family want to be involved or care about this? So Jamie's example of the baby teeth is a perfect example, right? Her son does not want them. It's her memory. So she can keep those baby teeth as her memory. That's absolutely fine. But she knows her family does not want to be involved with that item. So that's not an item to keep to pass on, right? So then you have more information about whether you want to keep it or not. And another example of how much does my family want to be involved or care about this? There are so many times that I hear people have been left usually an entire estate worth of items. And a lot of times our family can burden us to be the keeper of these things because they know we will. And they know that our feelings of obligation and all of those feelings are going to weigh on us so much that we will be the keeper of the things. But if you are your family's keeper of the things, it is a sign, whether your family is truly interested in these things or not, if your other family members are not willing to take those items, if you do not want to be the keeper of those things, they're not willing to take those on and either store them themselves in their homes or find alternative storage, rent a storage unit, arrange with somebody else, then it's not as important to them as either they're making you think that it is or that you assumed it is, right? So really think about that one. If you are the keeper of the things, if you are keeping things that nobody else is interested enough in keeping, if you would not keep them, if nobody else would, then truly you are not keeping them for your family. You are then keeping them out of your own feelings of obligation, and you are keeping them for yourself, which is fine. But we need to be honest about why we are the keeper of the things, why we are the keeper of the family's legacy. If it brings you joy, like my old client Mary had so many really cool old letters and various clippings from her family's history. And she loves genealogy and she loves figuring out the stories and putting them all together and archiving them and making this into a beautiful, practically a book on her family. That brings her joy. That is a perfect reason to be a keeper of those things, right? Because she enjoys it. She finds the value in it. And it's not because of being burdened or a feeling of responsibility or obligation. It's not a negative feelings. It is something that she truly wants to do. That is the perfect reason. However, there are so many clients that I've worked with where they have items that they are keeping, like great-great-grandmother's quilt that she made, and they're tired of being the keeper of this item. The item to them is not extremely important. The history is important, but it's not extremely important to them. They don't want to be the keeper of the item anymore, but they end up keeping it because nobody else in the family will. So they feel it's left to them and they have to. Those are the items that you really need to start thinking very carefully about. If nobody else in the family will take them and be the keeper of them, then we've probably built up in our minds that it's important to the family and we're doing this for the family. But no, if they won't take responsibility and keep it either, then we're really keeping it for ourselves out of our own feelings. So when you're asking yourself that question, does not mean you have to let go of the item, but it does mean that it's time to be honest about why you're keeping it. Are you keeping it out of the obligation because nobody else will? Do you want to keep it? Does it bring you joy to keep? Or is it time to let it go? And next week, we will talk about how to let go of some of those heirlooms and collectibles and antiques. We'll brainstorm some ideas about where to pass those types of things on. But if your family's not interested and nobody else wants to be involved in the carrying of the item, it's okay to also not be involved in the carrying of the item. And that ties into, could this be someone else's responsibility? If you do not want to be the person responsible for caring for that item anymore, maybe somebody else will, whether it's within the family or a historical society or whatever. But find out if anybody else wants to take on that responsibility. And it does not have to be you, right? Okay, so let's go to the comments real quick. Then I will recap. Let's see, where did we let off? There we go. Susan says, write something to go with the Swedish thing so they know when you got it, wore it, and loved it. And yes, if you have any pictures of yourself in it, that's also good. I love it when people pass things on with the stories, even if you just do a video of yourself explaining it. It's so helpful. And yes, Susan said, maybe include a photo of you wearing it. Jane says, my son is visiting next week and we'll be going through things to see if he wants anything. That's great. Yes, when they visit, you can go through things, which is a great time to share your memories with them and let go of whatever they don't want. Or you can text message them, share information that way. Yeah. Bonnie asks, what to do with old sports trophies? I've donated sports trophies to, schools, kids groups, things like that, because they can peel off the little labels and reuse them. And I know my stepdaughter has come home a number of times with random trophies from obviously some teacher ran a lot of 5Ks and she's got a bunch of medals that she's won for things like math contests and stuff. So I'd love to donate those types of things. Karen says, I'm scrapbooking and taking collage pictures of schoolwork papers to show handwriting and skills. I put about 6 papers in each picture and only take a picture per report card term. Yes, much better. Curate the selection, right? And it's going to be a lot easier for them to digest and not be overwhelmed. And they'll see what's important. Peg says, I got rid of my china since we only used it twice a year. The kids didn't want it since it wasn't dishwasher safe, right? Yeah, china is one of those things. Use it or let it go, but it can be one of those things that we keep just because we think that the kids will want it one day, and they usually don't. A lot of times they don't. Yeah, Lynn said to Peg, two want theirs to see if check two that want theirs to see if they want some of the third child's ornaments, even though they were not theirs. They might have memories associated. That is one option, but it is okay either way. The nice thing is if the first two wanted them, then they could have said, hey, I want theirs. So, but that is one option. Yeah. You're so welcome, Sylvia. Mary says this information is so helpful. I'm going to order my cards today. I appreciate your work. Thanks. You're so welcome. And Lady says it's been helpful. I have loved this with you. So just let's recap real quick. So the emotional decision-making questions, right? Number 1, does it bring me joy? Number 2, what feelings does this bring up? Number 3, am I ready to let go and move forward or grow? Because remember, it's taking up both physical and mental space. Once you let go of it, then you'll have space for something new, right? Number 4, am I keeping this out of guilt or negative feelings? Number 5, what does my gut say? Sometimes you don't have the words or logic, but you just know. Follow that knowing. Number 6, how will this affect my family? If you didn't have it, how would that affect them? And a lot of times they would not even notice or care. Number 7, how much does my family want to be involved or care about this? If they don't want to be involved or really care, then it's up to you if you want to. But you're no longer doing it for them if they're not interested. At that point, be honest, you're doing it for you. And then number 8, could this be someone else's responsibility? If you're tired of being the keeper of a thing, it is okay to find it a new home. So like Jodi from Moms Who Dare group mentioned, she said that she'd heard these are your memories, not theirs, when it comes to stuff from your kids, especially their early childhood, right? So think about, is this their memory or your own? And remember, today's the last day to buy the Spark, the small step home organizing cards and still get the home maintenance list pack. So today is Thursday, February 17th, 2020. You can still get the cards after this if there's limited quantities for this first batch. So once these are sold out, then there will be a while before I get them restocked. But each of these cards has a different little declutter task. So what you can do is each day you just pull one card and it will tell you various things that you can do around your house to declutter, and it makes it super easy. It's a 5 minutes or less type of task. Pick one item on a shelf or wall that you could let go of is one example. Another one, locate 3 summer items that can go. Bathing suits, flip-flops, that type of thing. Locate 2 food storage containers that you no longer want. A lot of times we have so many of those, right? So there are 100 cards and they're reusable. Once you've gone through the deck once, go through it again and again. You just keep going because these are the types of things that we can use over and over. So today is the last day to pre-order these. They'll ship in early March. Pre-order these and get the bonus download for the home maintenance checklist pack. So if you have not gotten yours yet, make sure the link is in the description. Yeah, and I think that's it. All right. Well, thank you all so much. Jana asked, she says she ordered the cards but didn't get the bonus yet. Is that sent in an email? It is. So double check your email and your spam folder. If you don't see it there, shoot me an email at hello@suzannakaye.com and we can make sure that you get that bonus. Yay. Jamie says, bought the cards and plan to involve my hoarder children. Yes, those are great to get the family involved too, because you can hand someone a card and say, go, and have people do it. I love it. Lori asked, please tell about the paper path again and how to sign up. Yes. So the paper path, the membership is a supportive membership that goes along with the paper path course or the Spark Life Binder just to help support you. And then the paper path course is broken down step by step how to organize all of the papers in your home life. And we break it down from incoming papers, important papers, your file cabinets, special papers, all that stuff. So it's all broken down step by step. Both of those will be available in I believe it's April. March. The end of March is the next enrollment period. So it opens twice a year. So in the end of March is when the paper path and the path membership will open up again for enrollment. So make sure, keep your eyes out on the Facebook group, your email inbox. If you're on my email inbox list, this Thursday talks, I'll make sure to mention it there too. And I'll share more and more as that gets closer. Mary says, letting go of food storage containers. Oh no, LOL. Yep. And Jamie, Kathy says to Jamie, I bought the cards for my hoarder mom and hoarder daughter. I love it. Thank you so much, everybody. Patty asked, what's the cost? Need the link again. So for the card deck, the small step cards, the cost is $24.95. And the link is in the description. I'll put it up again for the last few seconds before we go, but it's also in the description of this video. So find the description and there's a clickable link there, which is easier. Kathy says, thanks. This has been a wonderful course. Yeah, this series has been a really fun one. Next week, we will be talking about antiques, collectibles, heirlooms, and how to, some options for letting go of them if you wanted to figure out how to let go of those. You're so welcome, Eloise. She says, sending you lots of love. I'm sending all of you tons of love as well. I love you so much. I will see you next week. If you're a Pathfinder member, then remember at noon, so in about 5 minutes, hop over to the Facebook private group, the Campfire group, and we are going live over there just for our Pathfinder members to talk more in depth about paper organizing and some of the concepts that are best for you and answering questions. All right. I love you so much. I'll talk to you later. Make this week amazing.